Salutations, everyone. Thanks for participating in today's office hours. And as always, I'm joined by my fellow cohort, Veronica Boudreau, who, to be honest, I wouldn't be as successful as I am today without her decades of experience to lead on. So I wanted to take the time to give a massive shout out to her to say, thank you, Veronica, for all the support over the last few years. I will say to all the listeners on the call today, if you haven't had a chance to have a conversation with her, you really are missing out on a wealth of information.
Oh, Adam, you're too kind. I feel like the decades have literally gone by. I feel like when you're having fun, time seems to fly by. I'm really excited about today's topic.
Yep. Today, we're going to be exploring call exploration, and that will be in the classic application. And we're going to talk about its many uses, from its ability to drill down into data, to be able to look at the related call fields, or as I call it, cradle to grave, and to be able to change the drill by features to view the data in like an organizational view, data source view, or maybe just view it unfiltered, just a completely unfiltered call records. Now, as always, there will be a time for Q&A following this presentation where you can ask questions regarding today's topic or our application just in general. So let's have some quick webinar housekeeping statements as I do every week. Just first up, I disabled the chat. So if you want to ask a question, just utilize that Q&A section. My partner, Veronica will be monitoring that section, and we'll bring up anything in the moment that might need to be asked, or we'll just wait till the end of the session to answer some of those questions. Lastly, we'll be recording the presentation portion only so that we can easily review the content later at your leisure. However, keep in mind that the Q&A section at the end, when you ask questions, will remain unrecorded. Actually, you know what? I was going to make a change this week, and I forgot about that. Just for the sake of it, I'm going to try something new. I'm going to keep the recording on so that I can follow up with some of the questions. However, none of that will be shared. I will trim that portion of the video off of that. So keep in mind that if it does still say recording, it's just easy for me to go back and look at those questions. So if I need to follow up with you guys, I can. And it also lets me know who was the one that came off mute and spoke. So keep that in mind. Other than that, as always, thanks you so much for being here, and let's get started. So what we're going to do is I'm going to switch over to our login URL. Like I said, last office hours, the URL has changed. So we're now going to app.isianalytics.com, which I can bring that back up real quick and show you that slide so that you're aware of the URL. App.isianalytics.com is the URL that you use to log in now, and that is for everyone. And so I'm going to go ahead and log into my demo system. Nope, give me a moment. I don't always log in this way. Oh, that is correct, because I use a different password. Always be secure, folks. Use different passwords. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and click on the icon in the upper right-hand corner to go to Infratel Classic. It will open up another tab, bringing us to the Classic product. And where we're going to navigate today is under reporting. Oh, you know what? This is why. I apologize for this, folks. I did this earlier. I am needing to log into my admin account. So give me a moment. That other account did not have access to the call expiration. So again, we're in Classic Product under reporting. We're going to go to call expiration, which is this little handy guy right here. Now, during most of my training sessions, I always talk about call expiration being an ad hoc lookup tool. And it truly is that. It's meant for you to take a look at your data in a fast and easy way. Now, what I will also usually say is that call expiration is not meant to be your end-all, be-all reporting tool. If you're looking to export data into a nice stylized PDF or Excel, you truly would build that in the reports module, okay? This is more for when you need to look at call records on the fly, or you're just trying to research a call and you really don't need it exported. And there are some benefits to using call exploration that are not available in your reports tool. One of them being just the easy way to be able to kind of organize the data, whether it's by organization, your data sources, or just straight records, and then also give you the ability to drill into cradle to grave information straight from call exploration. Okay. So let's go and let's talk about the first part of this product, which is going to be the drill by options, okay? You saw here that I have dropped down and you have some selections, one of them being organization. So if I were to leave it by organization and leave all the constraints as were, and were to click the get results, this is gonna pull records for a given day based on your directory structure. Now, most clients use a directory. They're importing a directory, whether it's from Active Directory, your UCM environment, from WebEx, all those different platforms. That directory is being fed here, which gives you hierarchy to your organization structure, whether it be cost centers, departments, stores, whatever, however you have that built out, it would display it in that fashion. Okay, and which you'll be demonstrating here in a moment. So let's go ahead and do that. Before I kind of dive into the other drill bys, let me just go ahead and show you what that drill by looks like. And for some reason, my demo system likes to go a day before. I'd like to do it just for today. So let's do it by organization today and click Get Result. What you're going to see is it's going to load up and bring me that information, and it will, when it is ready, display the information by the department structure, which you'll see are different departments. So in this system, we've got ABC Company, First Frugal Financial, Lifelong Healthcare, and Specialty Retail Company. And you can see the call volumes for those particular department structures broken out. And it does break it out by the different call types. You can see local, long distance, local, inbound, info assist, and internal placed. You're also going to get, total call counts, total costing, if you're utilizing the costing of our product, the total duration, average costing, average duration, and then also a tally of abandoned calls. Okay. Now you'll see here that this particular directory structure is underlined, which means that you do have the ability to drill into it. So if I clicked on ABC Company, you'd see it breaks it down by the next hierarchy, which is locations. So if I went to Midwest, then you can see that it breaks it down by departments. So I can see customer service, and then we can go into the individual people, whether it's conference room, Rachel, Terry, Tammy, and so forth. And you'll notice here as well that the call types are also unlined. So if I wanted to see just Tammy's inbound calls, I have that ability, and this is what we're going to see. We're going to see, date, time information, duration, the phone number that's involved in this inbound, because we did select inbound for Tammy. If you're curious about her entire journey, we can actually go back and actually click on just Tammy rather than inbound, and we'll see all of her information. So now the call types are, they are abbreviated. So inbound, local, you've got some internal placed, and so forth. The location of those calls based on the phone number, the area code and phone number, the extension that Tammy is assigned to, and if if her device that is associated with her name or her owner profile has a device and she picks up on different extensions, you would also see that. The costing, account codes, if you still utilize that. I don't see that too much anymore, but that did and does exist. Ring time in seconds, if the call was abandoned. And then lastly, we have a related calls field, which I will go over a little bit later. Now, to return to our results, we're not actually going to select the menu. There are a couple different ways to do it. You can either use the return arrow key, so return to selection criteria is an icon here, or if you go over here to the gear, you'll see that return selection criteria also exists. So we'll go back. It brings us back to the call expiration setup, and you can change your query. So let's go ahead and switch it from organization to data source facility. When I've shown this to clients, data source is very nice for the users that are on, like, say, like on the network side of things. Maybe they're not necessarily interested in like the reports of calls. That's not what they're looking for. Maybe they're just interested in maintaining the structure of their environment. Specifically, I would say the people that get most of this value are the UCM customers. And why I say that is, and if I go ahead and rerun these results, this is going to break it down by the different data sources that we have connected to our product, and then it'll break it down by the trunks that are connected to that product. So for example, I have the Cisco cluster number 1 as the data source. We'll go into that. So that had for today 11,000 calls. If we go into that cluster, we can break it down by facilities, and you can set up different facilities with the different trunks listed in them. But for now, let's go ahead and go into default, and you're going to see the different trunks that are listed here. If we go back out and go to Global Crossing SIP, you'll see the trunks going here. So if you were trying to phase out a specific trunk or maintain it, and you're seeing call traffic on it, you would be able to come in here and see that particular trunk and be like, why are we still seeing calls? You could go into that particular trunk and look at the information that we're getting for that particular trunk, okay? And so that's just another way to drill into the data using call exploration. Instead of, like, filtering on a report that you might be building and having to put in the constraints to get you what you want, this is letting you just kind of drill into information on the fly, okay? Another option, which is again very seldom used, but for some customers who do use it, very heavily used, is extension location. And it's kind of, in a way, replace the directory, because sometimes filling out the directory, you might have people in departments, but maybe those departments span across a lot of different locations, and you truly need to be able to report on a location. So what can be set up is, and I don't see it in my menu here, but normally there would be another menu administration called extension location. And what that would provide to you would be the ability to say, these extensions, and it's usually easily done if it's a sequential, that's the easiest way to do it, but it's not required. But if you could say that these sets of extensions, and it's just like extension list, it's not names or anything like that. So like maybe extension 1000 through 2000 are a Chicago-based location, and then you could run reports based on locations. Since I don't have extension location set up in this system, I can't demonstrate it, but you could utilize it in that fashion. You set the list of extensions for a location, and then you can run reports based on those extension locations and not use the directory, which may not correlate with those locations, right? And then finally, direct to detail, which is probably one of the main ways that people will utilize this, is because they're going to build queries using constraints to do so. Now, without adding any constraints, leaving it for today, we'll go ahead and get results. What you're going to see here is that it is going to take a moment, and it is going to pull every single bit of data that we've got so far for today, but then cap out at 10,000 calls. So the call exploration will only show 10,000 calls at a time. And so while this is great to be able to see this information on the fly, and you can even search in here for, say, certain call records, you would probably want to return and start building queries out. So you're going to want to start adding constraints in and plugging those constraint information in. Now, before I do that, and before I give some examples on call exploration and the ability to query on it, there's some other features that I do want to talk about. One of them is when you are noticing that we switch between the options, you're going to notice that there's a checkbox here for show related call lengths. This specifically is your cradle to grave information. So in order to see it, you would need to keep it checkmarked. And that is defaulted, so that's not usually an issue. But if you uncheckmark it, what I want you to notice is that the internal call handling option shows up. The default for call expiration when dealing with internal calls will only show you the placed call. So if you're looking at, say, like the organization structure and you run this with this, you're only going to see all of your people's internally placed calls. You will not see their received calls. And when I talk about building reports in the report section and people want to see both directions for an individual in a report, they usually turn on both internal placed and received. So they would just go to both, or in the reporting, I think you just check mark both. So in this situation, if you wanted to see both organization, both or individuals both received and placed calls, you would have to turn off being able to see the transferred call legs and specifically just look at their to be able to check mark both their received and placed calls. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that back on because that's actually a feature that I want to show. And then one last thing before I start adding in constraints and let's building on some queries. The one thing that I also use call expiration for, and this does show up in other modules, is this little item over here of data available. This will show you what we have available in the database for your data. And so in most situations, most standard contracts, the date range that is available is going to be 400 days. There are exceptions to that. Some customers may require only that we store 30 days worth of data for legal purposes, or just their particular needs, or maybe their requirements of storing more data, and that would be just a contract of sales or a contract change to be able to store more data than your 400 days worth of data, which is like I think I said already, is that 13 months is the 400 days standard. Okay, so if you're always like, do I have data for today? You'd be able to see this and see that the date has been updated with today's information, or how far back can I run a report? I'd like to run a 3-year report. Well, this will indicate you're not going to be able to get that information. And just for sake, and this might be a topic for another office hours on another day, when it comes to retention, there is no way for us to recover past date because we do purge it nightly on that rolling schedule. Okay. So let's go ahead and start adding in constraints. I'm actually going to switch it from organization to direct to detail because that's kind of how I like to look at car, because I don't necessarily need it to be parsed out by the department structure because I might be looking for something unique. And so some constraints that are popular, I would say as an example, a lot of times when you're looking for call records, people are usually being asked by human resources or security because they need to look up a specific call. And so what we would do is we might look for a phone number. So we'll come down here to a phone number, select that as a constraint. You see that pops up. If you watch some of my previous office hours, we have talked about operators. They do make a difference. So let's go ahead and add because I want to use a wildcard. I'm going to look up a phone number of 917-656-2496. And we're going to go ahead and get results based on this number. So we're going to go ahead and get results. And there we go. We have all kinds of calls, okay? And you'll see that they've ranged between a UCCX data source, between the Cisco Cluster 1 data source as well. You can see the individuals and their extensions. Sorry, I lost their extensions here. So 3140, 8509. You're going to see the different extensions that are picking up on those calls. So let's talk about, besides the information you can actually see, I'll zoom in a little bit, the information you can actually see right across the screen, the columns of data, which we already went over. Let's talk about 3 additional options that you can do in call exploration. One of the first ones I like to talk about is your call detail button. Selecting this icon will show you additional call data that's available within the product. So some of it's the same. You're going to get the date and time and the duration, costing, data source. It will tell you the trunk. And let me do a non-UCCX. Let me do this UCM one because I know it should have some of them, and it just depends on the call record. So I'm going to look for one. It doesn't have one. I might have to go and look for another one. That's okay. I'll find one later. What I want to show you is that call records can also show you quality of service records, and that does exist in the call detail, but it will only present if we've captured that information for that particular call. And so I might go look for one later. Okay. But anyways, continuing back up, you're going to see the trunk, the facility and the trunk that it came through. You're going to see the jurisdiction and the phone number. You'll see an extension, and then if you within the product have decided to change that extension, that's what would be displayed here, but then it would still show what the raw extension was, and so you can kind of compare. You can see ring time, if the call was abandoned, trunk to trunk information. You'll also get like stuff like the last redirect, the original called party number, final called party number. You'll get the device information, and then depending on system, sometimes you might even get the Cisco login information if that's included in this call detail record. And like I said, on some call records, if that's included in the record, you would also get quality of service call records at the bottom of call detail. I was kind of hoping that this call would have had one. Let me see if I can just poke in a few more of these. Maybe not this particular call, but we can certainly see them on other calls, and I'll try and find one later. The next thing that you can do is this little icon here. It's a reverse lookup, and it's really simple. All it's going to do is going to do a reverse particular number and look at Google to see if this might come up. This might be a particular person or business. It really depends on whatever is in Google for that number. So if you're just curious about what that might be, that is what this icon will provide to you. Okay. And then the last icon, which I think is the most popular in call expiration, because it is probably one of the easiest ways to look up this kind of information, is the related calls field. So looking at this particular call from the 2496 inbound call to 1136 is we can see that it was a part of a transfer. And selecting this particular icon will bring up a menu and show you those transfers. And so it's going to break it down by the timestamp, the duration. You'll see the calling party number is this 9630 number. You're going to see that it's called in to Billy Idol. We're going to see that it then goes to 1135 and then goes to 8519. It then went to 1136 and stayed at 1136. And then I got pushed over to Paul Wilson at 1415, and that is where the call ended. Okay. And so the other thing that you can do in these is that you can also look at the call detail record button here to see the additional information. So you can see the device on the first leg of the call. We can go to the next leg of the call and see that particular device, and then so forth. And I'm trying to hope that I get a quality of service record in one of these, but no dice. None there, but I did see some earlier as I was poking around to show you. I just didn't write down that scenario, so shame on me. So that is kind of a nice, like I said, a way to look at call expiration to see additional information. We can go back to our selection criteria and build out other queries. So I will remove phone number. Another scenario might be something like I want to see a quick for the 23rd, I would like to see all calls, seeing all clusters that over a duration of an hour. I'm curious about how many calls in my network are going to be greater than an hour. So we'll go ahead and do that, get results. And we have 4,941, and it spans between our Microsoft Teams environment. If I scroll down, we can see the different, we can see, it looks like a lot of Microsoft Teams calls, a lot of internal calls, meetings, that kind of stuff. So we could filter this out. So let's go back. Let's go ahead and add a data source constraint. So we're going to do a lookup and say, I just want to see the UCM clusters. And let's get results on that. We only have 3 that are over an hour. And so if we look at those particular calls, we can see those. So analog device, sorry, I went too fast on that one, an SCP device, and lastly, another SCP device. Okay. I utilize this for all kinds of different queries, and you can mix and match your queries on that. I like to also do stuff like, for some UCM customers or whatnot, I might use, say, device information. I might go ahead and say, you know what, we've got some Jabber devices left. We're trying to phase these out. Let's go ahead and look up all the CSFs and get results and see how many we've got there. We've got 40 calls so far today on a Jabber device. And so if I were to select one of those and look, you're going to see those different Jabber device calls. And you know what? I think I know why I'm not seeing quality of service. Let me do one thing. Let me, I just thought of this. Let me do yesterday's calls. Because if my brain is remembering some things, we do quality of service. It sure is. Okay. The reason why I wasn't seeing is that we collect the quality of service records separately from the normal CDR, and then we match them in the evening. So this is a good tip for you all. If you're trying to run quality of service call reports on today's calls, you might notice that you won't see any. It's because we match those call records with the quality of service records at the end of the night, and then they would be available tomorrow for today. So I was running call records for today, not seeing as a part of the call detail record button, and that's because they haven't been matched. So I'm looking at yesterday's, and you can see here that we see packet sent, packet loss, any jitter, latency, packet loss percentage, and so forth. So you're also going to get some of the others like, call quality grade, conceal seconds, that kind of stuff. Okay. So there's your quality of service call records. Okay. And so again, sorry, I was doing the Jabber calls for yesterday. And obviously Jabber would only probably be in the UCM environment. So we had 26 call records, and we could sort on any of these columns. So I can see all those records and say, you can see Harold, Gerald, Santiago, Fernando, Chris, and so forth are the ones that are still on Jabber or utilizing their Jabber, and we need to convert them. Okay. All right. I think that is all I really wanted to. I did duration. I did it on a phone number. You obviously can do it on extension, but I did my most favorite, searches for this. One last thing, and then we'll call it done. Something that I use call expiration for pretty heavily is test calls. If you are sometimes unsure about what is going on within your phone system, I use a combination of both making a test call from, and usually depending on how you're doing it, I recommend doing it from outside of your phone network. So like doing it from like, a landline, a cell number, something like that, calling into your system like a customer would, going through the path of calling, the different departments, whatever you're doing to test of where they need to go. And then I would wait for the call record to be processed, which typically takes about an hour. And what I do then is I'll clear the results. So I have a clear setting. I'll switch this again to direct to detail. I'll have the phone number constraint ready to go. And then I'll just look up my phone number. I'll be like, all right, 407-399-6888. And then I'll get results on the day in question and let it pull up my call record. And what's great about that is that, say it's a transferred call problem, you can look at that related calls field and see where it is that you're going. Most often not, users are like, it goes to this extension and I'm running a report on that extension and I'm not getting the results that I expect. Well, running a related calls field in like either call expiration or even in reports, you might find that that is not what is happening, or the number is translated to a different number, and that is what you should be reporting on rather than what your expectations are, because your CDR is sending it in a much different fashion. So that is how I utilize this, is by making test calls using call exploration to look up those test calls, and then like deciphering the information to know what I need to build my reports on.